Hi guys, welcome to another episode. And this week we're talking about following your gut feeling. And there are certain things that you can do just to follow your gut feeling. Let's just talk about that in this video. There's this story that I've had it twice in 1 month. It's about back in the time of the Cold War, where the two superpowers were actually fighting for dominion. They started doing this nuclear bombs and all this nasty thing. So with nuclear bombs being implemented, satellites were being deployed to actually detect where if one nation starts sending nuclear bombs to another. This one can use satellite to check if the nuclear bombs are coming. Long story short, there's this guy who became a soldier, went up the ranks, and then he ultimately found himself as a team leader responsible for early detection of weapon being sent off. The way that it strikes me, it's one of those, it's an important division, but what's the likelihood of a nuclear bomb being sent? But anyway, they made him a team leader. One day, he sits in his desk or whatever it was back in the 70s, 80s, and then his team comes over to him and says, "Whoa, we got this indication and things are flashing." And he looks at his radar, he's going around, and it does show that a nuclear missile has been deployed by the USA and it's coming to Russia. And then he stood there in awe. A few minutes later, another one popped up. Now there's 4 coming your way. 4 or 5, 1 or 2. Now he's sitting there, he's thinking, what will I do? Well, according to the protocol, he was supposed to alert the people upstairs or wherever they're sitting, the seniors. And the seniors will start to tell the other department to start sending missiles in retaliation. He stood there. Apparently, he was holding a telephone on one hand. I think maybe the telephone only had one button on it, just to press the button, and was holding the intercom on another hand. And then he didn't know what to do. They said the team stood behind him. He sat there, froze for about 5 minutes. And then he said in that 5 minutes, as he's reflecting later on, he says, he thought, is this real? Would the USA send nuclear bombs to Russia? Is this for real? And then he did nothing. And he said, if this is true, if they did send nuclear bombs, within the 20 minutes they would have landed. If not, then we're just gonna wait it out. He waited it out, and nothing happened. Nothing happened. So in another snippet, they said this guy saved the world from World War III, because if he did do according to the books, Russia was gonna be sending weapons to the other side. But here's what I want to focus on. So he followed his gut feeling. Beautiful. Let's talk about what happened to him. Because he didn't follow protocol, he was fired. As a military, he couldn't even become a police officer. He couldn't even work for the government. Nowhere. He had to become, if I'm correct, he had to become a potato farmer. From being responsible for quite hectic things to just being a potato farmer to make a living. And the world forgotten about him. He was fired for a simple thing. They said, you should have actually logged event by event what happened, and you did not make one record. He said, I was holding a telephone on one hand and I was holding an intercom on one hand. I didn't have a third hand to write a log, and they fired him for that. He surfaced later on, I think in the 90s, when a retiring general from the army mentioned him in his centenary speech or commemoration speech, one of those speeches. He said, it's the bravery of such people that we did not see World War III. And the whole world started saying, what happened? You can just imagine what the guy had to, toughly make ends meet until, newspapers and the news stations start flooding to his place just to ask him, how did you feel? How do you feel? It's been like 10 years ago. I don't know, how did I feel? So, long story short, that's our story time. What does this mean for us as analysts? Hits very home, because I don't know about you, but I sometimes sit with quite important information that is needed. Like even this morning, I was called left, right, and center because finance exec was going into Exco and he needed the numbers there. And it happened that the numbers didn't roll up correctly. I mean, they could easily make a wrong decision and I would be potato farmer. But what happens when you are in that space? What happens if you're in that space? I had a colleague of mine when we studied development finance. He works with, I think it's advanced analytics, but they're responsible for the scorecard of another bank, not the one that I work for. And she did a wonderful observation. She observed that there's certain rates which normally get declined when they apply for loans, any type of loan. Certain rates, color race, not running. So what she did is she said, if this particular raise always gets declined when they apply for loans, it is possible that their small businesses would not flourish because of a particular raise. And she put it, I think that was her dissertation. And then she was also tried to put it into small businesses, not having enough, because if you start a small businesses, it's all based on you as an individual. And if I am having a horrible credit rating, I can't make it, and that was her dissertation. Just in hindsight, we spoke about those things to say, you know what, you've stumbled upon something else that is quite important here. But as much as you've written a dissertation about it, your findings might not see the light of day for many years, because there are people that are benefiting in the process. There are think about it, not just the banks. Let's talk about the loan sharks. The loan sharks are benefiting from there. If, for instance, I get declined every time I apply, a loan shark will knock on my door and say, dude, let me know when Lisema Matsietsi applies. And when I apply today, tomorrow, a loan shark walks in and say, listen, my guy, I know you need me. Here's 50K. Start your small business. And I said to you, stumble upon something big, just put it out there, unless if you want to become a potato farmer. Following gut feelings, is it good? Is it bad? I think it is good to follow your gut feeling and do the right thing, as long as you are willing to live with the consequences that comes with you following your gut feeling. Would Protocol help you? Not all the time. Protocol is written there by people that have got an ideal situation. Like, say, for instance, before the global pandemic, nobody knew about the scenarios that we're running with now. But now we got different scenarios. That takes into effect, how can we make maybe bigger headline earnings with no infrastructure? We never thought about that, but right now we're running with that. So the people that normally write procedures is based on a certain time, when the procedures were applicable, or the ideal time in those times, ideal scenarios in those times. So they make procedures based on that. So it might not, work out following procedures. What if you are between a rock and a hard place? If I follow my gut feeling, I might get fired. Goes back to point number one. You must really have strong value system to say, this is my gut feeling and I'm going to blow a whistle on this. Besides that, it's very difficult thing. There are other people who they are strong gut feelings, others are not. At one point they would split it up by different races to say, this race is more gut feeling, this race does not. I think it's all based on the education system. If, of course, you start with education system, a stripped down version of education system, like, so for instance, if I teach you Bantu education, I teach myself Bantu education. Of course, there are certain qualities that I might not have, but over some time, I might start to develop those when I start to go for management training and stuff like that. So gut feeling, it's all dependent on situations, different whatever at the time. But what I'm bringing in this forum is that please bear in mind that gut feeling has got consequences too. And when you go with your gut feeling, you must be ready to hear or to get the blow when the consequences comes in. When you get the ripple effect, just be ready for that. I think it's in Pedi and Tswana and Sotho, I think it's Pedi, you do something, you're in trouble. You don't do something, you're in trouble. So it's one of those cases. Blow the whistle, you start a World War III. You don't blow the whistle, you stuff up yourself and your family will go hungry. And who knows, maybe you'll be celebrated many, many years to say, thank you for helping out with this big error that used to be being done by this big credit union. Because credit unions use, historical data to make future predictions. If there's something wrong with historical data, the future prediction or the current reality that we live in will be a problem. But when you come and you blow a whistle and you say, listen, I think there's an error here, the first question will be, then give us the right data. Where do we get the right data? So it becomes really, really tough. But as analyst, I would say, yes, I've come to such scenarios, but I'm always ready to actually get the whip of or the ripple effect of me following my gut feeling. Thank you for joining into this conversation. I'll see you next week for another video.